All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as we do a little free agent grades for the 49ers after the first 2 days of free agency, and we'll go guy by guy and give you a grade for each of them. But first, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out, and they do run out. So get there early. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Say hello. Tell them that Krug sent you. Get some brisket chili, and enjoy Pig and a Pickle. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. And today's video is brought to you by Claw Daddy Arcades. That's right. They got 3 locations in Southern California. Plus, they've got spots in Fresno and Modesto and a brand new location coming soon right here to the Bay Area. Claw Daddy Arcades is bringing family-friendly fun to communities across California, whether you're a kid or just a kid at heart. Claw Daddy Arcades is for you. Follow them on Instagram at claw_daddy_arcades and find a location near you. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Niners in the free agent market. I went through and gave each one of these guys grades. The Niners signed, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 free agents thus far. And they're not big name guys, but doesn't matter. We'll give grades across the board. Now let's start with Luke Gifford. Luke Gifford is a veteran special teamer. He's a linebacker. He's had a lot of success on special teams. The only downside is that, you're bringing in a linebacker who's going to have a spot on the roster. You're probably only going to keep 5 or 6 linebackers. And, to me, I would rather not have a special teams linebacker who really can't play from scrimmage. I'd rather have, guys who are future starters at linebacker who are playing special teams, in the process of earning a starting job, not guys who failed as starters and are now just lifetime special teamers. Now, I understand there's necessity to have guys that care and are passionate about special teams. I just don't want to waste roster spots at linebacker. I want to have guys that can potentially step in for Fred Warner, potentially step in for D Winters. I want to see future starters added to this roster at linebacker. Enough of the Nick Ballors and the Luke Giffords. I want to see guys who can, maybe make a Pro Bowl at linebacker. I mean, years ago when the Niners had Greenlaw and Warner and Aziz, you had 3 guys there who were starting caliber guys, and you had some decent backups as well. Now their backups are young and special teamers. Now, I don't mind young, but I do mind clogging your roster with special team only type players. But I'll give it a solid B. Why? Because he's had a lot of success on special teams. I mean, the downside is he takes a roster spot from a young linebacker who could emerge someday as a starter, and maybe a productive player from scrimmage, where we have a pretty good expectation that Gifford is just going to be a special teamer. Now he's a good one, and Brant Boyer is the Niners' new special teams coach. And if you're gonna hold his feet to the fire on how his special teams performs, then you probably should let him buy some of the groceries, as Bill Parcells used to say. And Luke Gifford is a guy who's played for Dallas. He's played for Tennessee. He's had success on special teams. So he basically replaces, guys like Curtis Robinson, who's still on the roster, and Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. But now if you take Curtis Robinson and you make him, if he's on there as well, he's a guy that doesn't have a lot of experience playing from scrimmage. And now you've got 2 special teams linebackers of 5 that you're going to keep on your roster, or 6 potentially at the most. So I don't know. I personally would have, carved out a couple more roster spots for young future starters. And that's, to me, how you win football games, because what's more important, that you have an experienced special teams player week 1, week 2, playing special teams on kickoff coverage? Is that more important, or is it more important to have a guy on the bench who, if Fred Warner tears an Achilles in week 5, you can put in there and start him the rest of the year? to me, there's no doubt you would rather have the starter than a special teamer. And I get it if you have established starters that are, healthy, they're not going anywhere. You got, a quality backup behind them. You want to carve out one or two spots for special teams. I get it. But I'd rather have future linebackers than just guys who can play special teams. So I'll give it a B, even though his production says he should get an A. He's a very good special teams player, but because of how they're, that's going to keep one less future starter at linebacker on the roster. So I don't love that. So I gave it a B. Jason Pinnock. Now I gave this one a B plus. I like Pinnock in the draft out of Pittsburgh. He's a 4'5", 4'6" corner. He's not a burner. He's a veteran cornerback, but he's very physical. He's a smart player. He's a competitive player. He tested out as a pretty high-level athlete. He's played a little bit as a safety in the last year. He's a good blitzer, and he's good on special teams. So, I mean, you look at Isaac Yiadom and some of the backup players they had, in the defensive backfield last year. I think they're going to move on from a lot of those guys. Yiadom's already moved on to the Saints, and you've got a couple other guys who are going to move on as well. And Pinnock, I think, is what I like about him is that football's important to him, and he's kind of rugged. He can play corner, but he's also got safety experience. Safeties who can cover are really worth quite a bit in today's NFL. So I'm going to give him a B plus just because the price was right. And this is a guy who can play corner and safety. He can help you as a blitzer. He can help you on special teams. I think he's a very versatile player. And I like Jason Pinnock. So I gave him a B plus for the grade. For Trey Brown, he comes over from Seattle. I gave him a C plus just because he's a small corner. He's a smallish corner who was the third corner in Seattle. He's got good measurables as far as speed and jumping ability. I just think he's a small backup corner who, against the bigger receivers, is going to leave you wanting. And I don't know what his role is going to be exactly on special teams. So I don't see the greatness of Trey Brown that others see, but maybe we'll be surprised. I gave him a C plus. Demarcus Robinson, I gave a B minus. Now, this is a veteran wide receiver who can make plays down the field. Now, he doesn't run great for the stopwatch. He ran 4.59, 4.61, pretty pedestrian times for a wide receiver. But he does make plays down the field. He did it with the Rams. He did it against the Niners last year, early in the year. This guy makes plays down the field. He makes catches down the field. So even if he ran 4.59 or 4.61 for the stopwatch, he plays fast. He's a vertical receiver. Now, the downside is he is another veteran receiver who kind of clogs a roster spot for that truly dynamic, fast, take the top off the defense kind of a receiver. And you already have spots committed to, I think realistically, Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings, the kid from Arizona, Cowing. So Cowing, Pearsall, and Jennings are locked up. You're probably only going to keep 5 or 6. I like Isaiah Hodgins as a possession guy. Now you've added Demarcus Robinson. So that's 5 right there. You haven't even had the draft yet. I think you probably would like to take a dynamic receiver at some point in the draft. Somebody who can get vertical and create big plays. So I don't love it from the standpoint it kind of clogs the roster up a little bit with a player that's not a great player, but he is a good player and he's a productive player. He's a healthy player. He's made plays in the division, and he's made plays down the field. So a downfield receiver, and they got him at a reasonable price. So I gave it a B minus. The minus is more because, man, what happens if the draft plays out a certain way and you want to draft a couple guys? Now there's not even a guarantee that you can keep those guys on your roster because you've got veterans kind of clogging it up. So Demarcus Robinson, I think it's a good pickup, but he's not a burner, and this team needs that vertical threat badly. So you got to create a roster spot for at least one more receiver that could be a vertical threat and make plays down the field. So that one's interesting. The Richie Grant signing, I'm giving an A. I loved Richie Grant at Central Florida. I really badly wanted the Niners to get him in the draft. This guy's got starter potential. He's young. He can hit. He can cover. He's got special teams experience. It hasn't worked out in Atlanta, but if you know the Atlanta Falcons and you've researched that, the Falcons, none of their young DBs have really come of age in the last couple of years because they have no pass rush. If you have no pass rush, that's a pass rush is a young defensive back's friend. And if you have no pass rush, you're really leaving those guys unprotected. And that's what happened here to Richie Grant. I like Richie Grant. He's athletic. He's powerful. He's a good hitter. He's young. He can play the deep middle in a cover 3 in a zone. He can play the deep middle if you want him to in man. I think he's a perfect complement to a guy like Malik Mustafa, who's a box safety, who's going to play up on the line of scrimmage. Then you mix in the fact that Grant also has special teams experience, which is great because, they may say goodbye to George Odom in the secondary. I think Richie Grant is a good player. I think, why do I like Richie Grant? Why am I giving him an A? I give you an A if your best football is still coming. See, most of the guys in free agency have played their best football. That's why you overpay for them. They have experience. Most of those guys have already played their best ball. Most of them are getting paid based on what they've done, not on what they will do. Where you got to find in free agency, if you're going to have success, you got to find the guys who still have yet to play their best football and you think it's coming. And that is Richie Grant. I don't think he's played his best football yet. I think in this environment with some young defensive linemen putting some heat on the quarterback, I think Richie Grant can be a player, not just a special teamer, but a player who plays from scrimmage. So he's not George Odom. He's a starter. He's a starter. Now, it's got to be the right fit, but I think he could be a starter at free safety opposite Malik Mustafa. All right, so I gave him an A. Luke Farrell, I gave a C. Now, I like Luke Farrell. He's a try-hard blocker. He's committed to blocking. It's essential that the Niners get a blocking tight end. Why? Because George Kittle's their best blocker. Every other tight end they have on their roster is more of a receiving tight end. Tongas, receiver. Braden Willis, much more of a receiver, kind of an undersized guy. Mason Pline, who I really like as a developmental player, the former basketball player at Ferris State. He's a receiver. I mean, that's what he's going to do. He's a receiver. He's not a blocker per se. So they needed a blocker because you got to get George into the pattern. He's too good of a receiver, and without Ayuk, without Debo, you're going to need George to be a dynamic receiver. So you got to have that inline blocker. The only thing is they're paying him way more than they paid Charlie Werner, and he's never scored an NFL touchdown. So I don't love the fact that the 49ers are signing a tight end when the 2025 college tight end crop is one of the deepest I've ever seen. I mean, there's going to be guys that go in the 7th round that are going to be good NFL tight ends. There's going to be guys that are undrafted that are going to be good NFL tight ends. So did you need to give guaranteed millions to a blocking tight end who's never scored a touchdown in his life? To me, it's too much money for a blocking tight end. He's going to have to contribute a whole lot more for the Niners than he's contributed up to this point to justify the money that they're paying him. So I gave him a C. I gave him a C. Now, the Mac Jones signing is the highest profile signing. I'm giving that one an A. And I love the Mac Jones signing. 1, Kyle Shanahan wants him. 2, Kyle Shanahan feels like he fits this offense. 3, I don't really think that Mac's problems in New England were Mac related. You had defensive coaches coaching offense. You had the worst collection of NFL receivers of any team in football. He had a really good rookie year. He made the Pro Bowl as a rookie. How many quarterbacks make the Pro Bowl as a rookie? He did. So he had a couple down years after that. Then he wound up backing up Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. So I think it's a good fit for Mac Jones. I think he's going to play his best football straight ahead. I think he's going to have a long career. I think this guy's going to be in the NFL for the next 10 years. I think he's going to find himself in San Francisco, and he's either going to emerge as a player here or they're going to move him somewhere else for a whole lot more than what they gave up to get him, which was nothing. So I love it. And then you also have a backup who's got starter potential. The one thing I know about Brock Purdy is Brock Purdy is a whale of a competitor. I mean, he is a great competitor. If I had to say one word that described Brock Purdy, I would say competitor. It really is his defining characteristic. And to me, he's such a great competitor. Why would you take away the competition like the Niners did this year? Why? Why would you take the most competitive guy in the roster and not put some competition up against him? Makes no sense at all. That's what they did this year. They had Brandon Allen and Josh Dobbs. Neither could really challenge him as the starter. Neither of them have starter potential in the future. So what are you doing? I mean, you got to have somebody there that can take Brock's job. You got to make Brock uncomfortable. There's a time to make people comfortable and there's a time to make people uncomfortable. When you're trying to get the most out of somebody, don't make them comfortable, make them uncomfortable. Brock needs to feel the heat of having an NFL caliber quarterback who can start right there. If Mac Jones is right there, you're going to get the best out of Brock Purdy. If you get the best out of Brock Purdy, you're going to the playoffs. If you go to the playoffs, you got a chance to win the Super Bowl. So I think this is a huge, huge move for the 49ers. And I've been talking about it all off season. They needed a real backup. They needed somebody for a couple reasons. One, what if Brock Purdy goes down and misses 5 games? You can't go 0-5. With Josh Dobbs, you're going 0-5. With Brandon Allen, you're going 0-5. You're going to lose all those games. Mac Jones can win games. I really believe that. Now, some people don't believe that. And if you don't, then maybe you don't like the signing. But I believe Mac Jones can win games off the bench. And then I also think that Mac Jones can take Brock Purdy's job. So Brock Purdy is going to be properly motivated because of Mac Jones. And your whole season is about getting a great year out of Brock. If Brock has a great year, you're going to the playoffs. If you go to the playoffs with Kyle Shanahan and these weapons and all the experience they have on their roster, even with the defections and the cuts and that kind of thing, you got a shot to win the Super Bowl. You got a shot. I don't see a juggernaut in the NFC. The Eagles won it all, but they'll be coming off a championship. Everybody else is kind of just in the mix. The Niners are right there. If Mac Jones's presence ensures that you get Brock Purdy's A game, I don't care if Mac Jones doesn't play a snap. It's the best signing of the offseason. Just to have somebody there that potentially could take Brock's job to make sure that he plays at a high level. I think it's huge. I think it's absolutely huge. So I give Mac Jones signing an A. The money is reasonable. It's less than you paid Darnold. I think he's a better talent than Darnold. Darnold's got a better arm, but I think Mac Jones is smarter. I think Mac Jones processes faster, better. I think he's more accurate. I think he's better than Sam Darnold. I really do. And to get him for the price they did and to make sure that you have a guy who can ensure that you're getting Brock Purdy's A game, I think it's a huge move. So an A for Mac Jones, a C for Luke Farrell because it's too deep of a tight end market to pay guaranteed millions to a guy who's never scored a touchdown. An A for Richie Grant because I think Richie Grant can play free safety in the Niners defense. A B- for Demarcus Robinson. I like the addition. I just don't love the fact that it kind of takes up a valuable wide receiver roster spot away from somebody who could be more dynamic and younger and faster. I'll give Trey Brown a C+ just because I think it's a good ad from a player who's played pretty good football and the price was right, but he's a smallish player and to me he's just an ordinary player. So I give him a C+. Jason Pinnock, I like a little bit more. Physical, tough, can play special teams. I think he could be an excellent coverage safety, or he could be, a corner off the bench that could help with depth. So I like that one. I give it a B+. And I'm giving Luke Gifford a B. Really good special teamer, but I just don't like clogging, my roster with guys who can't really ever, no matter what, play from scrimmage. If the Niners lose 3 linebackers, they will not be starting Luke Gifford, at linebacker. They'll find somebody else. And to me, I would rather not have a guy. I'd rather not clog my roster with a backup special team only type linebacker when lots of young future starters at the position could be drafted on day 3. And who knows, they could emerge as very reliable special teams linebackers. So there you go. There are the grades. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Claw Daddy Arcades for sponsoring this video. Thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.